and welcome to another product introduction video. My name's Oliver Draper, CTO for COP. And the product I've got to show you today is the brand new Hikvision Access Controller. This is the Ultra Series 2700 series. So as you can see by the predecessor, which we got to the side from just there, this one is similar in some respects. It still comes in a 1, 2 and 4 door, just like the previous one did, the 2600 series. But there's some differences. First of all, you can probably notice that it's just a controller in my hand. The one was in a big enclosure. Yes, you can get these in the enclosure as well, but you can just purchase it without the enclosure, as I've got here. And without the enclosure, you can just mount it on DIN rail, should you wish. Again, it's still got facility for the actual backup battery. One of the main benefits of this one is a 12-volt input as well. Now, this particular one I've got here, this is the 2-door version. Now, there's a 2-door version like the one I've got here, which is also PoE, Power over Ethernet. So using the IP port that's just there, not only is it providing data to the device, but it actually powers the controller and the maglock. Do be aware, however, that your keypad card readers, and if you've got your powered exit buttons, they do need to be powered separately via 12-volt power supply, so it is worth noting that. Now, in addition to obviously being PoE, this one, it also has Wi-Fi. Now, I do need to also stress to you that if you're using PoE, you don't get the Wi-Fi feature. You only get Wi-Fi if you are powering it with a 12-volt power supply. So it's either PoE or Wi-Fi 1 or the other for that matter. Again, this one's a 2-door one, so you have got your RS-45s there. You can use WeGAN connection at the bottom there if you want to use a third-party card reader. Again, you power your lock all from here as well. You've also got your door sensor and you're wiring your exit button. First of all, in addition to all that, it has a built-in web browser. So unlike the previous one, the 2600 series, you had to use some form of VMS, such as Hike Central, to configure the system. This one, you don't. It does have a built-in web browser, so you dial into it the same way you would do with an IP camera or an NVR, and you log onto the web browser, and you can configure it all locally through there. You can simply activate the device, put your people in there, put an access schedule, and assign that schedule to a person, all through the web browser of the device. And there's more. There is more. So, what I've got to one side to me here is another device that works in conjunction with something, should you wish. This is a 2-door access module. What's that? So, basically, we've got all these RS-45s along here. We've got these ones for your card reader, and these ones along here is what we can then daisy chain onto our access modules, and these ones can control 2 doors each. So they daisy chain off. This means if you have the 4-door controller, you can have 64 of those devices, which give you a 128-door system. Massive, massive solution there you can do. 128 doors, all from one controller, is the capability of these things. Absolutely fantastic. So what we'll do, let's get this wired up and we'll configure it and just see how this works. So, here's the main controller itself. As I mentioned, we've got our RS-45s along here. We've got our locking mechanism along the top there. We've got our door sensor. We've got some alarm outputs. Along here, we've got our alarm inputs. We've got our exit button. Fire alarm relay as well in there, so you can put in a third-party fire alarm system. Or your WeGAN readers. Battery option. And 12-volt power if you were going to power up a 12-volt power supply. On the side, if we take a look, there is our Ethernet port, which in this case, for this particular model version, is the PoE version. So, what we'll do, we'll focus on the top part of it, and we'll look at the locker mechanism to start with. So, if we start by taking a look in the top right-hand corner here, what we've got on the actual controller itself is it says lock, power, ground, 12-volt out. So, you'd think logically, you have your 12-volt and ground going straight to your maglock. That is not the case, because if we look to the side here, here is our lock relay. So, the way we have to set this up is you have to have your 12-volt out going directly to your maglock, which we're going to do in a moment, which is going to go via our green break glass. Then, out your ground, you create a loop going out of there, going in to the common on our lock, because this is our relay. This is our switch sensor that turns the actual maglock on and off. Then from here, we have our ground wire that leaves the NC, because there's going to be a normally closed circuit, which will go off to the negative of our maglock, again, via our green break glass. So let's do the wiring down here to start with. So if we take a look and see what we've actually done, we've got the red wire, which is coming out our 12-volt out, which goes up our main core cable, which is going to go to our maglock via a green break glass. Then we have a black loop cable, which is coming out of the ground on the lock power, which then goes in to COM 1, because this is only one door we're putting in so far. Then, out of that, we've got NC1, normally closed circuit 1, going up the black cable, going to our maglock via our green break glass. So this is going to be a normally closed circuit. So the idea being when someone presses the exit button, or they put in their code or swipe their fob card and their card reader, this relay here will change from normally closed and will open the circuit, therefore removing power from the maglock, allowing the door to be opened. If you're putting in two locks, because this is a two-door controller, we've got COM2 and NC2. In addition, if your locking mechanism is not a maglock and you need the circuit to remain open, but then to close the circuit upon the door being allowed to open, we have NO1 here and NO2 just here for your second door. So again, the options are NC or NO depending on what sort of locking mechanism you're using. So theoretically now, we could wire these two terminals here straight into our maglock. However, as I mentioned, we are going to be putting this via a green emergency break glass. So if I just turn this over, we've got an array of terminals on here on the back. Now this is what's known as a double pole green break glass, meaning when we actually press the emergency, in this case, what happens is this will disconnect the actual 12-volt out and the ground. It will disconnect both lines going to the maglock. If it was single pole, it will just disconnect one. This is a double pole, so it's going to disconnect both. So on the back here, we have got two sets of blocks, and it might be quite difficult to see on camera. But basically, this is our first pole here on the left-hand side, and our second pole to the right. And we have NO, common, NC, NO, common, NC. So again, this determines what sort of locking mechanism we're using. So if we're using NC, as in it's a normally closed circuit, so that means the connection is made between those two, and the same with those two, then that's what we call maglock. If it's for another type of locking mechanism where the actual signal is left open, but it closes the circuit, again, same principle, we'd use the NO wiring. So again, that's a normally open circuit, but then when we hit it, it closes the circuit. So it depends on what sort of circuit you're using. So let's get this wired in. So here's our cable coming from our controller, and both terminals are going to go into each of the common poles. So we're going to put the red one into the first one, into the common, which is in the middle there. And now our ground wire is going to go into the second pole of the common. Now that's done, we've now got to create the NC circuit going up to our 12-volt out, and also our ground, which go to our maglock. Now if we take a look at the actual wiring mechanism of our maglock, there is actually a hole at the top here where you would feed your wire through. For today's exercise, I'm just going to wire it in through the top here because I'm not going to close this cover, just so you guys can see the wiring a little bit easier. So I've got my two cords there coming off from my green break glass. We've got the red, which is our 12-volt out, and we've got our black, which is our ground. And these go to the respective positive and negative, which we've got at the top. Now, on this particular model of maglock, we have got some additional terminals here. It is worth noticing not all maglocks do have this. What we've got here, we've got our common, NO and NC terminals. This is because this maglock has the door status sensor built into it. So depending if the door's open or closed, using the sensor wires, we can run them back to the controller, and that will then tell the controller if the door is opened or closed. So let's get this wired in. Now, I'm just going to use some multi-core wire for this one. I've just got blue and yellow there. Again, if you have got multi-core wire, theoretically, you could use the same trunk of wire, which is carrying all those back. As you can see, I'm using a different set of wire for this purpose. Now, I'm going to use the yellow for the common and I'm going to use the blue for the NC. So these all run down to this middle block here. So what we've got here, we've got in the center, ground, sensor 1, sensor 2. Again, is it door 1 or door 2? Both use the same ground. So let's get those wired in. So if we take a look and see what we've achieved so far. So we've got our power, which is coming out of our lock power via our relay through the brake glass to the power to the maglock. And then we've got our sensor wire coming out of NC in common, going into the center terminals on our controller. Now the next thing we need to wire in on the top part here is going to be our keypad card reader located on either of these two terminals at the top here. So we have two there, so essentially we have a facility where we can double up on the cores going to our keypad card reader. And the benefit of that one is you can have a circuit going one way and a circuit going another way. So if a circuit is disconnected, you've got the other circuit that keeps the system running normally. So let's get that wired in. So here is a typical Hikvision keypad card reader. This one supports Wiegand and RS485. We're going to use RS485 purely because it's a Hikvision reader which is compatible with the Hikvision controllers. Now on the back, we've got our cable coming out of the back there. The cable is conveniently labelled as well with what colours are what. You do get the quick start guide in the box, but if we take a look at the opposite end here, I've just temporarily taped down the Wiegand wires because I'm not using Wiegand today. So we're using these 4 wires here. We have our positive and negative for our power, so our 12 volt and our ground. And then we have our RS485 positive in yellow and RS485 negative in blue. Now, on these terminals here, we're only going to wire in the blue and the yellow, the RS485 positive and negative. As I mentioned earlier, because this is going to be powered off PoE, we do need to power our keypad card reader separately. So we are going to use a separate 12 volt power supply, just apply power to the keypad card reader, but the data for the reading is going to be down these 2 cables, which is going into the RS485 positive and negative on here. So as we can see, we've got the main cable coming out to the back of our keypad card reader, RS485 negative going into the positive and negative on these blocks here, and then the power is simply going off to an independent 12 volt power supply. How are you going to use it? You may have a power supply unit with backup battery, that's up to yourself, or how you're putting power there, but just bear in mind, if you are using PoE on this one, this does need to be powered separately. So if we take a look at what we've achieved so far, and what I'll put on screen for you now is a wiring diagram of what we've actually wired up so far. So again, as you can see to the right hand side, we have there our power to our lock, which is going via the locking relay using the common and NC via our green brake glass. From there, we've got the 2 cables coming out, which go to the negative and positive on the maglock. Out to the maglock, we've got our common and NC wiring going back to our ground and sensor 1 on our controller. And then finally what we wired in is our keypad card reader using the RS485 negative and positive going to the keypad, and then the power for the keypad card reader is being supplied by a separate power supply unit. Now we're going to look at the bottom half of the controller, which we've not looked at yet. And again, we've got an array of different terminals. We've got our fire alarm relay, which goes in there. So again, your fire alarm can go into there, which again will drop power to the system, allowing doors to be opened. We've then got our push to exit buttons, got our ground, button 1, and then to the left, button 2. We've got various alarm inputs, alarm input 1, alarm input 2 just there as well. Along the bottom, we've got Wiegand 1, 2, 3, and 4 for your third-party card readers. Then our battery, negative and positive, to put in your backup battery, and then also our 12 volt in and ground for a separate 12 volt power supply if you're going to power this off a 12 volt power supply. So what we'll look at first is wiring in our push to exit button. So here I've got one of the no touch push to exit button. So if we turn on the back of this one, you do get the actual ribbon cable with this that's needed. I've just extended the wire to make my life a little bit easier. So if we trace the cable all the way down to the other end, I've got 4 wires off the back of here that I'm using. So because this one is a no touch button and it has power to it, we've got our 12 volt and our ground wire. Again, this is going to be powered separately because again, we're going to be using PoE on the main controller. So there's 2 wires we need to concern ourselves with, our white and yellow. White is our common, i.e. ground, and button 1 is going to be the yellow wire, which are going into those 2 just there. Because we're using the yellow one, because it's going to be a normally closed circuit. If it's going to be a normally open circuit, we would use a green wire off the back of here. However, you can see I've not wired that in because we're not using the normal open wire. We're going to use the NC wiring instead. Let's get it wired in. So if we take a look and see what we've got our yellow and white going back to our no touch button, and then the power for no touch button is then going into an individual 12 volt power supply to power this particular button because this button requires power. Again, if you're using a different power supply or the same power supply which the keypad card is using, it's entirely up to yourself. Again, you might be wanting to run this back to a power supply unit that has a separate backup battery. Now, whilst on the subject of backup batteries, the controller itself does have the facility to wire in a backup battery for the system in the bottom right terminals here. So again, you can use your backup battery wire, put your negative and positive into those 2 terminals there, and from here, you can then put them onto your 12 volt 7 amp power battery. Again, in addition, you are also welcome to use the 12 volt power supply in the bottom right hand corner should you not wish to use a PoE on this particular model. Again, the option is up to you. Again, I'll put a wiring diagram on the screen to show you the bottom part of what we wired so far with the options of a backup battery and also using a different 12 volt power supply. So now that all the peripherals are all wired into the controller, we're going to configure and commission the system now to open the door. So I've got my single keypad card reader here. I've got my no touch button exit there. I've got my green brake glass, and of course my mag lock in front, which of course there's no power running to at the minute because there's no power going to the controller. The reason the brake glass is on and the keypad card reader, because don't forget they are powered by separate 12 volt power supplies. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this particular controller I've got is PoE. This is the 2-door PoE version. The PoE version is only available in the 2 doors. It's only got the facility to provide that much power. And that will power the controller and the mag lock. So I've got this running back to a simple PoE switch, which I'm on the same network that it's on. So if I plug this in here now, let's see what happens. Okay, so we've got the tone there, say it's powered up. The mag lock now, if I try and lift that up, as you can see, that is currently on. And you'll also notice the green light is on there as well to indicate that the system is powered and the door is shut. So we're going to give that a moment or two just to power up. I don't see on camera, I'll hold up a little bit to the side here. I've got my power indication light, LAN light, and the state is in red, indicating that the system is not ready yet. It's not commissioned, it's not set up. It's got an error state on there. And then to the other side, I've got 2 lights there for my door lock and 1 and 2 for the different doors if I was using multiple doors. Again, if I show you the picture on screen of what the control looks like, you'll see there now those 2 lights there to the left-hand side, which show you the door working mechanism. So now that's powered up. Again, I'll just see if my exit button does work out of the box. So even when it's defaulted, if I put my hand there, yep, that's released the mag lock. So again, I can remove that now. Light will come on in a moment when it applies power back to it. So we'll get our red light on there. Red light is on. That indicates there's power back onto the mag lock, but the actual door is open. Put that back on there. That's now on. If I try and lift that plate, that's lifting the entire mag lock to show me that the door is shut. So, again, over that, release the door, and that allows me to release the mag lock and place it back again, should I wish to. Right. Green light is on, door contact is made again, and we've got the complete circuit. Now, if you look on the screen now, as you can see, I'm opened up SADP tool. That's that Hikvision software that scans the local network and finds any Hikvision compatible devices. As you can see, it's showing that I've got a device here at the bottom which is inactive. That is our controller. So it's a DS-K2700X-E1 brackets P. So if you are interested in what those mean, DS means a Hikvision product, K means it's a building product, 2 indicates it's an access controller, the 7 means it's a 2700 series essentially, O2 indicates it's 2-door, W means it's got Wi-Fi, X indicates an overseas market when it's overseas, because don't forget these are manufactured in China, so as far as China are concerned, it's overseas, and E1 indicates it's PoE. The brackets P indicates this one is without the enclosure. And the device is currently inactive. So to activate the system, I give it a password. I simply tick the tick box just to the side. And on the right here now, I give it a password of my choice. Pop it once, and I'll pop it in twice. And click the activate button. Oh, password mismatch. Make sure I type that incorrectly. So if I don't put the same password in both boxes, obviously this fails to work. Try that again. Okay, click activate. There we go. It says the device is activated. Straight away, it's popped up asking me to set some security questions. I'm just going to click cancel on that for now. Now, if we take a look, we can see that the device currently has an IP address that doesn't conform to my network standard. It's the one that's defaulted out of the box. DHCP is enabled, so I'm hoping it will pick up a DHCP address in a minute. I will refresh it and see if it has. If not, I'll turn off the DHCP and turn it back on again, and we'll see what happens. So let me just refresh my page, see if anything has changed. There it is, it's in the middle now. However, it still appears to have the same IP address, which is not compatible for my network. So if I just turn that off for a second, modify. I turn that back on now to enable DHCP. We'll call into my local network and request some IP details. Password is still in there, so it'll be okay. Click modify again, and let's see what happens. And there we go, bang, straight away. It's now got an IP address which is applicable for my network. So in this case, I'm in a 10.3.3 range, and it's got 111 at the end. So I've given it a password. I've given it an IP address. Other than that, nothing else is really done. I've not configured any details. I've not configured the controller. I can't use a fob yet or anything else like that just yet. We've not done that. So what I can do here now is I can double click the IP address. And this is the web browser for the controller. Don't forget the previous one, the 2600 series controller, didn't have a web browser. You had to use a form of VMS, whether that's something like Hike Central to commission and configure the system. With this, we don't need a VMS. We can do it all through the web browser of the controller. And the login page looks fairly similar to a lot of the GUI 5 systems that we're seeing out there. We know it's an access control device because if we look in the center there, it's showing us a door with a key. Quite useful. So we log in with our details. So admin is the username and the password is the password that I've just given the device. Click login. Let's take a look. Let's say the password. And straight away it's put me into a wizard. It's basically telling me you need to create a password reset facility. So choose a question, pop an answer in there. I'm just going to put some basic stuff in there just for the time being. Obviously in the real world, you'd be selecting appropriate questions for yours and also an appropriate answer. I can also set a recovery email address if I wish to. However, notice it's not starred, so it suggests I don't need to. So I'm going to click next. And then I need to put the admin password in there to confirm that I am the administrator and therefore authorized to set those settings. Great. Okay, that's done. Next one now is asking me to set the actual language. Go with English. Click next. And then finally, it's asking me to configure the time settings. So again, don't forget, because Hikvision Chinese product is put it in Beijing, Singapore time, we need to change that to the appropriate time zone of where we are. So I'm just going to scroll on that list there to have a look to find where we are. Okay. Dublin, Edinburgh, London. I can manually set the time if I wanted to, or sync it with the computer time. We are currently in daylight saving time, so I'm going to enable DST. DST kicks in on the last Sunday of March at 1 AM. And then it goes back to GMT on the last Sunday of October at 2 AM, and it's a 60-minute tolerance. So if I click complete, that should hopefully set the correct time on these devices. Top right corner now, it's telling me I've got an option to go for a wizard, and I can actually go for the wizard. It's telling me this is how I configure my access modules and things. So it's giving me a little guide to say, this is how you set the system up, essentially. So, we're in the main web browser now. I'm just going to get rid of the quick start guide to the clicking the X in the top right corner. And there we go. So we're in. We can see we've got 2 access points there, because it's a 2-door controller, so there's our 2 different doors. I should be from the web browser be able to click the unlock button on door 1. Let's see. Yeah, that's unlocked it. Should get the red light on there in a minute. It says that it's unlocked on screen. It now says closed. So we're going to put that back on there. And we're back to how we were. Nice and straightforward. Along the top there, we've got person management, we've got device management, and system maintenance. We've also got those things in the quick start options there. So it's already suggesting these quick start links to go to be able to do these various things. Include lower level. Let's click view all. Let's see what we get there. Okay, so it's just giving us a view all of those 2 access points. Absolutely fine. Okay. And if we scroll down, we've got our different statuses of what's actually going on. So the door's been door normally open and locked again. So every time I was using the exit button, we can see there it was capturing the events as well, and we can see the events on the web browser. Door status, it's telling me which access module. Well, we've got no access modules. Those separate little boxes I mentioned that you can daisy chain off the controller to look after 2 doors at a time. Again, up to 128 doors if you had a 4-door controller. Got no of them modules, so there's none there, and therefore it's saying that there's no online and there's no offline. Card reader, it says I've got the option to have 4 of them. Yep, because I can do read in, read out. 1 is online. Yep. And 3 are offline because I've not got any connected in. Fine. So if we go back up to the top, and this is now where we can actually commission our system. Now again, as I mentioned, we could go through the quick start guide, add your device, add your person, add an access schedule, and then set your permissions. Let's give that a go. So, add access control device. So what's this asking me to add in? This is asking me to add in an access module. Again, them little boxes. But we're not using that. So we can cancel off that. Let's go back. Go back to our guide. We're going to go person management. So we'll go to person. Okay, so in person, employee ID. ID 1. Why not? Name. Let's put my name in there. Organization, default 1. So again, I could add an organization. So I can have different organizations there, different groups of people. I'll just keep it the default 1. Male, person, normal user, I'm a visitor, or on the block list. Say normal. Okay, long-term effective user. So again, validity period. I can set a start time and end time when this person's relevant to the system. We put long-term effective user. That looks like it's an indefinite user. Quite useful. As I go down, certificate configuration, cards, fingerprints, and PIN numbers. Okay, so I can add in cards in here. I have got a fob just on my desk here. Let me just grab that fob, because what we're going to do, we're going to add a fob into the system. I have got 3 here, these little MyFair fobs. This is a MyFair card reader. So if I, first of all, I'm going to tell it how to collect the card read. So let's go configuration. And have I got any remote station? No, I'm using a card reader. I'm going to use this card reader to enroll the fob. So I'm going to do that one. It's asking me which card reader, and this is going to be my access point 1, which it is, and card reader entrance. So I can have card reader entrance, because don't forget I can have read in and read out. Now at the moment it thinks that technically all are available, but as we know, 3 are offline. Now how do we determine the different addresses for these? Well, because it's RS-485, it uses dip switch addressing on the back of each keypad card reader. I'll put on screen for you now the different dip switch configuration for your card readers, if it's entrance reader 1, exit reader 2, again, and so on and so on and so on. So again, if you take a look at the dip switches, make sure you apply those dip switches before you power on the reader. So mine's already configured as a card reader entrance. So if I click on card reader entrance, click OK, what I should be able to do is click add card, and let's just see what happens. So if I click the read option, present my card, there we go. Mustn't have hit it properly there first time. Click read, and it's now captured the card number from this fob. And it's asking me about what kind of fob this is going to be. Is it a normal card? Normal card just means only open and close the door. Fine. Is it a patrol card? So again, if it's a security officer who's going to do rounds and basically just tag to say he's checked that doorway and or whatever, again, it's a patrol card. Duress card. A duress card means that it will still open the door, but it will send an alarm back to whatever monitoring system you're using to say the person is under duress. And then you've got super card. So a super card is a super user. So even if the door is in remain closed option, a super card will always let you in, even if the door status is in remain closed. I'm going to keep this as a normal card. That's absolutely fine. Click OK. Fingerprints. I've not got any fingerprint readers, so again, it's not really relevant, but same principle. You would add usually a USB fingerprint card, enrollment station, enroll your fingerprint in there. And then we've also got the option for PIN number. I can automatically generate a PIN number, or I can just put in there one myself. Okay, PIN number in there. Authentication settings, same as device. Permission type, permission by group, or permission by access point. So I can create an access group, or just do it by an access point. So let's say if I go by access point, let's see what we get. Allocate. Add an access point in there. Latest for access point 1, because it's always the one door. Click OK. Click OK again. So me as a person that I'm adding in is going to be allocated this access point 1. I can be granted the option of extended door opening. So usually by default, and again we can take a look at the system maintenance and device management side of it, but usually it'll open or trigger the actual maglock to be open for 5 seconds, and then it will close it again, apply power. This is where for this particular person they can be granted extended opening. So if the controller is commissioned to say extended opening is say 15 seconds, it means that when this person uses their fob, it will actually release the relay for 15 seconds as opposed to the standard 5. Let's click on add. Okay, so now I'm added into there. As you can see, my details are there. If I click on me, let's just see what I can get. Any further information. Got one card, one employee. I can edit the details. Fine, not a lot more I can do from here, to be honest. But yeah, adding people in, fairly straightforward to the system. If I go down, I've done person. I've technically created an access schedule. Access permission management, let's have a look. Okay, so this is where we can actually create some access permissions. I think that's already in there because we created one earlier. Let's just have a look. No, let's add one in there then. So I can just give it access main door. Again, I set a template for that. So all day template is 24/7. I add the access points in that I'm interested in. Could be that one and that one, or just access point 1 because I've only got the one door control today. Okay, and then add that one in there. Forgot to click the add button. Try that again. Click save. Save. And there's an access schedule sort of permission sort of setup really. Fairly straightforward to do that. Let's just see if my details actually work. So I'm going to go use my fob now. Let's see what it does. Yep, that seemed to go green. Open the door, release the maglock. Seemed to work quite well. Shut that again. That's now shut. So if I try and up that and then use the fob. Yep, release the door. Shut that again. That's now shut. Try the exit button. Yep, let me through. And as you can see, I'm getting all the events here on the side as well. Let's just see out of curiosity if my PIN number worked. Yep, put my PIN number in, went green. Open maglock. Shut that again. Closed. Do my PIN number again. I just did 1234 hash. Yep, that's worked. And therefore let me through. Another thing I've not tried yet, green brake glass. Let's just check, make sure. So the idea should be, is if I hit that, that should disconnect power to the maglock. But again, everything else should still remain powered. Let's try that. Okay, so that's hit. Got the yellow bar on there, say that's been struck. Power's released of that, so I could open the door. I could use the reset key if I wanted to. If I just press those back up though, that should reset everything and put power back to it all. There we go. Power's now back on. That's now shut. Quite interesting so far. Let's see what else we can get. Because one thing we have got, which I've not shown you so far, is on the left-hand side here, access point management. Let's click onto there. And as we can see, it's automatically created a topology of what card readers are connected in into which doors, and even the main controller is showing there at the top as well. I can even click on one of the card readers. So there's my entrance card reader, this one just here. Click on the little cog next to it, and it sends me into the device settings. I scroll down. I've got all the settings about there. Even the option to enable Bluetooth. Now, this particular card reader doesn't support Bluetooth. The 1109 keypad card reader, I'll put a link in the description below. That one does support Bluetooth, so from here you would be able to enable the Bluetooth feature as an option. As we look bottom here as well, we can set different schedules when different credentials are used as well to get authentication through that particular card reader. In the smart method, again, this is for using things like face and fingerprints. And if we go to door parameters at the top there, this is where we can amend how door 1 or door 2 behaves. So again, give it the name. The open duration is set to 5 seconds. The timeout alarm is set to 30 seconds. Is the door magnet sensor remain closed? Yes, it is. Is the exit button remain closed? Yes, it is. It's a normally closed circuit. There's our extended opening duration that I mentioned. So again, if you do add someone to the system and mark them as an extended opening duration, it'll open the door, in this case, for 15 seconds. But I can increase that if I want to. Again, I can create a specific code for a duress code, a super password, or a dismiss code specific to the door, not to a user, if I want to. Again, lots of settings that we've got on this thing as well. We'll go back to overview. There we are, back to overview. There's our door control status. As I mentioned, unlock the door from there, just from the actual screen itself. And all the events there on the left, on the right hand side we mentioned as well. I'll try that fob again just to see what happens. Yep, open the door, letting us through. Again, dead straightforward, really, really easy. So we'll just have a quick look at some of the other things we've got on the left-hand side. Event search. This is where I can search for events that have taken place. So I can see who's accessed the door and when. I can search by these events, search by time frame, card number. What else have we got on the left-hand side? Access point management. Yes, we've already seen that. Person management. Yep, so we saw that we had an access permission in there. Access control applications. These are the advanced applications we can do. First door, open door with first person. So that's basically where you've got a group of people that are allowed access, but the other people aren't allowed access until the first person has used those. Multi-factor authentication. This is where more than one credential has to be used. So usually we say card and PIN has to be used together. Multi-door interlocking. So basically the previous door behind you has to be shut before you can open the next one. If we're using the control of the access modules and we've got a really big system, we could do up to 32 doors of interlocking if we wanted to. Anti-passback. Again, so again, once the credential's in, it's got to be used to get out before it can be used to get in again. So it's got to follow the sequence of in, out, essentially. And then we've got door remain open and door remain closed. So we can set a schedule when the doors remain open and a schedule when the doors remain closed. Lots of things in there. And again, in the configuration, which we have already previously seen. So there we go, everyone. Really straightforward bit of kit. Quite simple to wire. Obviously, you saw the wiring diagrams there throughout that, which can obviously help you out. And from a configuration menu point of view, again, very straightforward of how you actually configure and set the system up. I did mention, of course, that we have these 2-door access modules. There's a separate video coming of how we wire these into the main controller as well. So do keep checking on our social media channels. You will see another video coming up soon of how to wire in the 2-door module. If you are interested in this product is available on pre-order. If you go to the link below, that will send you to our part of our website where all the access control devices are there. Again, mentioned it is available for pre-order. Get in touch with our sales team. You'll be able to get that pre-order in as well. As always, if you did like the video, please don't forget that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, if you hit that bell icon, you'll be alerted when we upload any new videos.